Howdy, folks. This is Jack,
And I'm Bryon.
and we're here with you with the Marine Corps Movie Minute, where we break apart Heartbreak Ridge 1 minute at a time. Well, Marine Corps movies 1 minute at a time, but now we're focusing on Heartbreak Ridge. We are looking at minute 21, where Gunny Highway's record of achievement is being told to Major Powers, and he is going to get his ass chewed in part by Major Powers. So,
So, so right off the bat, what Choozoo's giving his standing attention. Choozoo's kind of giving the IMDb of Gunny Highway. His
yeah, yeah, his war record.
right. He's hitting the highlights. He starts off with Korea. He said Dominican in '65. I think he said 2 tours in Nam,
Yep.
and that's really it, right? I don't think he said anything else.
Well, yeah. So yeah, you picked up on that Dominican 65. I didn't think anything about it. Then we got to discussing it, and it sounded like there was a little bit more going on that's probably not as widely remembered.
Yeah, I when he said 65, I pretty sure Vietnam was starting to build up by that point. In fact, I think it was even earlier than that. Back when we had, um, what did they call them? It wasn't like full troops, but they were like,
It was a police action. I think Vietnam officially started in '59.
yeah, well, because yeah, the French were dealing with
Yeah,
issues in Vietnam, and we kind of started helping them out this time.
yeah,
And but advisors, that's what I was looking for. They had advisors, quote unquote, over
yeah,
there
yeah,
for a
yeah.
while. In fact, I had a teacher he joked about he was an advisor. he was he, he was a U.S. Marine. He was over in Vietnam, and he was an quote unquote advisor
Oh man.
while he's over there fighting, basically. So, but we knew from watching this movie that Clint Eastwood was in Vietnam. So when he said Dominican in '65, I'm like, well, clearly if he was in the Dominican Republic, he wasn't in Vietnam yet. And he said 2 tours in Nam. So we had to look up what exactly kicked off in '65 that wasn't
Yeah,
Vietnam related. Well, basically the U.S. sent 22,000 troops over to the Dominican Republic to what President Lyndon Johnson at the time said to restore stability to that nation, and really it was to basically prevent them from becoming another Cuba with a communist dictatorship.
yeah,
So it looks like Tom Highway was one of those 22,000 Marines that landed there.
yeah. That's pretty interesting.
Now that's funny. That's something that I've never heard of before. I don't believe.
Mm-mm. No, that was pretty interesting too, man. That was something that we got to learn. I mean, they're pretty heavy on teaching us Marine Corps history, and well, I guess too though. I mean, if nothing really substantial happened, it would probably be one of those things. It was kind of like when we send Marines to Haiti after a storm or something. It's like not the only people that probably remember it are the ones that went. You
Well,
know.
in all honesty, too, I don't really recall them discussing Grenada in boot
No.
camp. It's all, I mean, there's a limited time.
Yeah.
They're going to hit the highlights. They're going to hit the big stuff. They're going to hit,
The big hero moments.
well, right. But well, I mean, they even talked about Beirut, though, and
Yeah.
exactly a hero moment, but it was a big moment.
Yeah.
So, they hit the stuff of the Barbary pirates and stuff like that. They just every climb and place, they just kind of give you the highlights of every major engagements the Marines have been involved in, and obviously some of the engagements get a lot of history from them.
Yeah.
World War II on Iwo Jima had the raising of the flag. Bella
Right.
Wood, in France in World War One is where we received the name Devil Dog.
Yep. Yep.
So not, they kind of have to, not only they have to teach these engagements, but also that's where you get that like history of like I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but like you know, Devil Dog is a prominent
Yeah.
kind of part of the
Yes.
culture of the Marine Corps, and
Yeah.
they teach you the battle so you know where that came from.
Right. Yeah. That's the Marines are really big on history, and I mean, and they don't they don't gloss over the bad parts either, man. They don't. They talk about Beirut. They talk. There's a lot of
Well,
you know.
even as sorry to interrupt, but as we talked about with the Frozen Chosen, we I think we both agreed that even though it was a retreat, it was a fighting retreat. So I don't really look at that as a like necessarily a negative, but it's not a great thing. But
No.
but
No.
again, as we talked about it, it's helped develop the Marine Corps once again, reaffirm their traditions and their fortitude and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Showing how they thrive in adversity, and that was
Yep.
an example of major adversity that they thrived as a unit or as a corps, however you want to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. Fighting force. A cult. I still stand by the idea that the Marine Corps.
Oh yeah, I joke about that all the time. It's basically a cult.
Yeah.
Well, because you've seen the memes where it's like the Air Force is like a desk job, and the Navy's like a frat, and like the
Yeah.
the Army is like actually being in the Army, but the Marine a cult.
Yeah. Yeah. Straight up Kool-Aid drinking. Yeah. Crayon eating.
Right, yeah, right. We eat the crayons, and they make us have stupid haircuts.
Yeah. Oh, it's good stuff.
So we don't hear much about his 2 tours in Nam, other than that he had them. But
Yeah.
what he said, this old snake in the grass has more shrapnel in him that he can't go through an airport metal detector.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, am I boring you?
Sorry. Sorry. It's been a long day, man.
I swear to God, I mean, it's bad enough that I'm probably putting to sleep our listeners, but now I gotta my co-host is going to sleep with everything I'm saying.
Yeah, I apologize. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, Major
Damn right. Damn
Major
right.
Major Powers is like, yeah, I haven't had the honor yet of combat, and Gunny just sits there and stares at him and doesn't say anything.
Yeah. The
Sup-
pr the
Supply and logistics.
exactly. Oh, but I love Choozoo's kiss ass, like, response.
Yeah,
"An unappreciated field of endeavor, sir."
yeah,
And and the funny thing is about that is, like, he's like, "Quite."
yeah,
Was like,
yeah,
even though he knows he's kissing his ass, he doesn't really have time for it. He's just like, "Whatever."
yeah,
Like, when we talked about this movie being, like, disavowed, and we were saying, like, everybody's an asshole, so Major Powers is being a major asshole right now.
oh yeah,
Yeah, but I joked about, like, every staff NCO is like a kiss ass, and even Sergeant Major Choozoo, you already see that coming out of him. He's just like, "An unappreciated field of endeavor, sir." Like, he didn't have to say that. He
yeah,
just coulda he said, "I recently come over for supply." End of story. You don't have to
yeah.
say anything else. Personally, I didn't really know too many people that were that level of kiss ass.
No,
There was plenty of people that played the game, the political game, to kinda,
yeah,
garner favor and all that type of stuff, or just, but never to this level. But I think it's funny that even though I already like Sergeant Major Choozoo just from the film, but already it's just kind of like, really? You're gonna kiss this guy's ass? He, he,
really.
he clearly has as many stripes on it. You don't see it, but he got the service stripes, and to see how many years in service he's been, his would look just like Gunny Highways.
Oh yeah, easily.
And even though the major's probably been in a bit of time, because he is a ranking major, he's nowhere to that level of Sergeant Major Choozoo. And you would think somebody like the major would have respect for somebody like Sergeant Major Choozoo, but he's very quite dismissive of them and kind of talk shit to them. But there are those guys like that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're around. There's some of them. Then there's some of them too where they're just as sarcastic.
3 tours in Nam. So he did 3 tours in Nam. See, we watched a minute, and I already met. Yeah, I was stuck on 2 for some reason. So he did 3 tours, and I wanted to kind of go back and check the minute, because after he gets up and saying how he hasn't had the privilege of combat, he gets in Clint Eastwood's face.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried to intimidate him.
right. Well, because he's reading his service record, or he knows about him before he came here. Which actually, now that I think about it, he knows what kind of transpired ahead of time.
Yeah. Well, he says he graduated with him, and he's taking his spot. So, I mean, he's like, oh yeah, by the way, yeah,
Yeah,
this one time I had to kick this Gunny out because he punched me in the face, and then meanwhile, flash forward, a year, and here he is back in the same office, talking to a different asshole.
yeah. Because what he was talking about, insubordination.
Your conduct unbecoming.
Yeah, public fighting, so that's the thing. He definitely has read his record then because he's got the public fighting, insubordination, conduct unbecoming. Now that I think about that, that could explain why he would be so standoffish when he first reported in because he probably didn't want that guy there based on that.
Yeah,
He says to him about the public fighting and all that, insubordination, conduct unbecoming. Clint Eastwood's kind of excuse was, well, it was a minor altercation, but not to the major. He
no,
doesn't see he didn't
didn't see
see
it
it
that
that.
way.
No, because to him, he said, "Well, you hit an officer, and I went to Annapolis with that guy, so that's his buddy."
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
now I can give him a little bit of a pass for why he's being a dick. As soon as he meets Tom Highway, he's never met him before, but he knows his reputation, and if he doesn't feel that that's the way Marines should conduct themselves. And honestly, he was very dismissive of his service record. Like you said, his resume basically.
yeah,
That Sergeant Major Choozoo was reading off, and it's probably why. That's why, because he's like, so what? You're basically he doesn't like the fact that he's an old guy, probably, and the fact that when he is here, he doesn't do what a Marine should.
yeah,
From an officer's standpoint, he's a pain in the ass.
yeah,
And again, and then he also has a personal grudge because he hit his buddy.
yeah. Fair enough. You know,
Yeah, and so and then that's the other thing. I think he's trying to be a tough guy on because he said, "You try that with me," and then we don't know what his threat's going to be because it kind of the minute ends there.
yeah, it cuts off.
Yeah, this is one of the minutes that didn't end as cleanly as some of the other ones we've been lucky on. So,
Yeah,
and again, well, they're just in the office again, so nothing new to pick out. They're just standing at attention and having a discussion with the new CO.
yeah. It's pretty interesting. Plus, it seems like Tom Highway's got a penchant for running into supply guys, causing headaches. The movie started with one, and now he's having to deal with another one.
Yeah, the guy that pumped the neighbor's dog, he had that look on his face.
Yeah, trying to give him cigars. Which, hey, by the way, anybody that may have served in a supply capacity in our armed forces, I got no problem with you. I've got a son now that's in the Navy, so he's kind of a supply guy. So
Does he try to make friends?
yeah,
I could use a lot of friends.
yeah, he can. Yeah. Trav tries to make a lot of friends. He's a very friendly person.
So he walk around with cigars and holding them up to his nose, and
Yeah. No, but I have to call him Popeye because he has a pipe. And he likes to smoke from his pipe. And I was like, "What the hell's with the pipe?" He's like, "Ah."
he's got massive forearms that are out of proportion with the rest of his body.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know what just occurred to me is that Gunny Highway wouldn't make it in today's Marine Corps.
No,
He wouldn't make it.
honestly, this is the 1983. He's barely making it in 1983.
Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of a relic.
Because think about it. He was he's a grunt. He's a grunt's grunt. He
Yeah.
is you know a fighting Marine.
Yep.
He was doing air supply
Yeah.
and not the band.
No.
Yeah. So
Oh,
I mean, he was not doing what he did his whole career because he got in trouble. He got busted out of this unit. He's now back in, and
yeah.
now that he's back in this unit, he's getting shit from the CO, and he's just walked in the door.
Yeah, which is probably the worst thing in the world for somebody like Gunny Highway. He's like, "Oh yeah, well we're just gonna put you on the other end of the spectrum, so we're gonna take you out of a fighting unit, and we're gonna make you count bullets or pack parachutes or whatever it is that they had him doing."
we saw in I forget what minute it was when he's talked about limp dicks right when a female Marine was right in front of him, and the
Yeah.
and the major there was like, "Highway," and he yelled at him.
Yeah.
Now, granted, in that case, he wasn't getting written up or he wasn't getting,
No, he's getting orders.
right, he wasn't, what is it? He didn't even have to go like sensitivity training or anything like that. But
Oh,
probably back then they didn't have it. But at the same
no.
time, they were. I mean, even though it was still filmed in 1986, and it did, and so it's not like it was more modern where they're like, hey, that kind of lingo and talk is inappropriate. I mean, granted,
Yeah.
stuff still was said and done, and probably still is today. But
Yeah.
like you said, it's totally different now.
Yeah, some of the WMs that we served with were worse than the men.
And honestly, I mean, it's just people are people, and I'm sure there's plenty of people even nowadays might be a little more crass than some of the men, but it's
Yeah.
just some are more than others. But it's a mad. First off, is the fact he's just saying it to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It just popping in his head, like, yeah.
He's talked about hitting an officer, and
Mhm.
he said, I went with that. You try that. Again, that's probably what got him busted out of the unit. And
Yeah.
he said, you try that with me, and we don't know what, but he's basically saying, come at it. I first off, I can handle myself, and I will fight you back.
Yeah.
Secondly, he probably would administratively punish him, at the very least. But we were in the 90s, and
Yeah.
I was witness to they weren't officers, but it was two staff NCOs, have an altercation in an office.
Oh, I remember hearing about that. Yeah. Yeah,
And
that.
it was interesting to say the least. There was a little protection going on after the fact, but basically the higher ranking individual who was also the instigator
Hmm.
and also was the one basically they kind of had the other guy go to a training for a little while, and by the time he got back, that higher ranking individual was retired.
Yeah.
They basically let him retire. He was coming to the end of,
Yeah.
but I remember that guy tried to kind of clean up the evidence of. I mean, that the office was trashed afterwards, and he was trying to pick everything up. It was hitting a guy with a phone, and then he tried to, and they, and the lower ranking individual who was on the receiving end of the receiver literally was like, "You leave that shit right there." He goes, "Don't you fucking touch a thing." And he went straight to the sergeant major. Yeah, he's like, and we had to write up a whole.
Oh man.
Yeah, we had a whole thing. Like we had to write up like what happened. He came into our office and was right what happened immediately, and it was a big thing. And like I said, they let it die down, but he got
Yeah.
administratively punished. Although, again, like that guy was operating under basically the old core kind of mentality, and even in the 90s, it was they used to joke with us all the time in boot camp.
Yeah.
The mothers of America have ruined the Marine Corps. We can't do
Yeah.
this. We can't hit you. We can't yell at you. We can't do this.
Wrong again.
Well, right, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I always laughed at the creative ways that they found to do corrective action.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got checked into some racks one time.
Well, my favorite thing is because of Mothers of America and hitting, they had to had to be an arm length away from them at all time. But all they do is rip their arms out, and you'd have to back up until you basically, like you said, fell into some racks or get.
Yeah. Yeah. Good
I had
stuff.
Yeah, this is. I'm sure maybe we should if we ever do what is it called? Not Heartbreak Ridge. Full Metal Jacket.
Oh
Just
yeah.
save some of those boot camp stories for those minutes.
Oh man. Yeah. Oh, that would be yeah, it would be when we're gonna have to get some guests on. We're gonna get some people that serve because everybody's got boot camp stories. Everybody's got boot camp stories.
Some of my favorite stories in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, oh yeah. Because it's the one thing that just about everybody in the military has to go through, right? Marine Corps boot camp, I've got to say, and I've heard lots of different things. I hadn't experienced any other one but the Marine, but I mean, for the lot of part, they're kind of similar. or they were in a lot of ways. But Marines is substantially longer and it's a little bit more intense. But even some of the other services boot camp stories, man, are pretty
Oh
pretty
yeah.
rad. You know, just the stuff that happens. Good stuff.
My dad was in the army, Vietnam era, and he's told me some stories too, and it's just stuff's hilarious. No matter where where you are and what time frame it is or what service. I mean, it basically sucks for everybody,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
and it's just hilarious. But one
Uh,
of the things they don't tell you about, I'll like, we're already talking about it, but
yeah.
one of the things that, that everybody thinks it's like the scariest thing, and it's like, whatever, it's intense, and it is, but they don't tell you that a lot of it is they try to actually make you laugh so they can fuck with you.
Oh yeah. Oh, and yes.
And it's legitimately funny. Yeah, but yeah, they will intentionally do stuff to make you laugh. But
Yep.
then if when you break discipline, they fucking they
Oh,
slam you,
it gets unfunny real fast.
which is where we got the idea for the quarter deck. Is like, get
Yeah.
on my quarter deck.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, that's that. But I think you're right. I don't think Tom Highway would make it in the modern Marine Corps.
Well, yeah, because he's just constantly getting into fights and stuff. He's a discipline problem.
Just the beginning of the movie, he would have been the sergeant major would have picked him up and then they'd taken him right to his retirement ceremony.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Where we get to stand out in said alphas in the middle of the sun in the hot day, and yeah, watch this guy get paraded around and retired.
Exactly. He
Get the
would
fuck out.
right. He would
Enough
go
of you.
bye bye.
Yeah.
They'll mention it in another minute. Major Power has an idea what to do with a guy like a Marine like Tom Highway.
Yeah.
He does see a use for him, but not much.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've gotten all we can out of this minute.
Oh yeah, well, I think we've got more talk about other stuff than we actually did the minute, which is fine.
Yeah, because again, it's not much going on.
Nah.
Standing in an office with and two people really having three people, I guess, but it's really a one-sided conversation.
So I guess join us next week when we find out what Major Powers has in store for our hero Tom Highway. Please don't forget to reach out to us through social media, Facebook, leave us a note or engage us. We're around, so we'd be glad to hear from you. And y'all have a good week.
I was trying to think of a good outro, like a good
This minute was a truly underappreciated endeavor.
quite.
Howdy, folks. This is Jack and Bryan,
Brian,
and we're gonna do this again. You know what? Yeah, we'll do that
do it
again.
again, and I'm putting it at the end.